guys, Rich here. Welcome to another Halo action figure review. Now this review is of a custom, so if you are interested in an Elite Major, I'm sorry, but I'm open for commission work if maybe you want me to make you an Elite Major and stuff. Anyway, Big Daddy Delta 48 here on YouTube had requested that I do a commission job for him doing an Elite Minor repaint. So he had sent me his Elite Minor. This is from Halo Reach, just like this, and all I did was repaint it. Now I know that sounds really easy, but it took hours of work to be able to get him to where he is now. Just show you some of the detail work here. I think he turned out to be pretty good. When I was painting him, I was really worried because I'd never painted a figure this red before. Like, I never did something all red. And I was kind of worried, like, oh man, this doesn't look very good. And even when it was finished, I didn't really like it. And I had made a video previously and posted it on YouTube, and somebody had suggested that I used a gloss finish, and I had thought about that, but I was thinking since the paint wasn't chipping, I wasn't going to do that, just because I didn't want to mess up on the armor and then have it too shiny and then have to go restart. And I was like, man, you know, I was kind of torn, and I just decided I needed to do it anyway. So I had used a gloss finish on him, and now his armor is shiny, as you can see with the light reflection, and it is a lot more like it was sold by McFarlane. So I am actually very happy with this figure, and I'm considering replicating this with something in my own collection now that I've seen, you know, how good it can end up turning out. Because, you know, when you have your own collection, you're making custom figures, you got so many other different ideas you could do, you never really get around to doing all of them because there's just so much. So everybody, like all the different requests I get on YouTube, there's always a different idea I didn't really think of or didn't get time to go to myself. So this is something, you know, an Elite Major is something I've wanted a long time. I just was focused on making like Spec Ops Elites and the Arbiter, you know, and now that I can go back and do somebody that's more of a regular soldier, I'm actually really considering doing it because I like it. Now, if you were interested in repainting your Elite Minor, or maybe you have an Elite from Halo 3 or whatever, you just want to repaint your figure to like this shade of red, I'm going to show you all the different tools that I used so that you'll be able to do this yourself. Now, this isn't counting newspaper or anything that I painted on. This is just the actual items that I used, okay? Now, for the colors themselves, the paint, I used, the first color you will use is Blood Red. This is Citadel Colors. I got this from a comic book store. This is made from miniatures, and it works pretty good on the Halo figures. Now, the base coat of, like, everything you see red is Blood Red, okay? And when you first paint this, this red is very, very bright. You can see here, it's very bright. But you need the red to go over the blue in order for the other red to actually end up showing off, you know, properly. The second color you're going to use is Red Gore. It's a much darker red, but when the two are mixed on the body of the figure, it ends up looking very nice, as you can see here. And instead of being one or the other, it just ends up being red. Instead of like a lighter or a darker red, it's just red. So I like that. For any area that you need to repaint black, such as some of these little vent things here on his wrist, or, you know, anything else that you might bump that's intended to be black, I would use Chaos Black. Pretty simple, okay? Another color that I would use for any place that's gray, like I repainted up here by his neck gray because McFarlane had gotten some of the blue and stuff in there, so I didn't want any of the blue showing. I'd left the blue on his stomach and the bottom of his feet because apparently that's actually the colors on some of the other Elites too. So that wasn't a big deal. The color that I used to do the patch up also of the suit here, in case you bump any of that, is Citadel Foundation Adeptus Battle Gray. It's a very good color, and I love it because it is just the right shade to blend in with the suit and everything, and it's great in case you mess up. So, yeah. And then the last color that I used for some of the little lights that I had to repaint, such as right here on his back, these lights right here, I had to repaint those. I used Tester's White Gloss. Now, they sell this like at Walmart, so yeah. Now, as far as the paintbrushes go, I used a couple different paintbrushes, and, you know, you can decide to use these or whatever. I used these two paintbrushes, and these two are, this one primarily came from like a cheap, one of those cheap packs that come with a bunch of different paintbrushes that you can get like at the dollar store or like at a craft store pretty cheap. It's not a big deal. The reason you want this is to paint the figure and to apply the gloss in like the really big areas. So it's a pretty good paintbrush because it's thin. So, you know, most of the time you can brush it wide, but if you needed to get somewhere tight, you could do it thin as well, so I like that. Another paintbrush that I used was another cheap one. Nobody really cares about that. But the one for the detail, the one that I got actually at a comic book store because it's for the miniatures, so it's a really small paintbrush, is this one. I mean, it is tiny. Now, the size of this one is 5/0. So if you wanted to get one like this, or maybe one even smaller, okay, this is what I used for this project. That is a very fine-tip toothbrush, paintbrush, that you can also get at like a craft store. They have fine-tip paintbrushes there as well. Now, once you get all the way done, you're totally all the way done with your figure, right? You are going to, if you want it to look shiny, you are going to use Pledge with Future Shine. Now, I got this at a Home Depot, but you might have it at Lowe's or some other mom and pop shop that does, hardware and stuff like that for like fixing up your home or whatever. So that's where I got that. And you only paint the sealant or the Pledge Future on anywhere that's armor. You don't go over all this other stuff like here in the middle, just the red armor parts. So then when you look at him, the suit isn't shiny, but the armor is. That's what you want, because the armor is metal when everything else, is not. So, yeah, and then it ends up coming out beautifully. Now just know that this figure, when I did it, maybe you're faster than me, or maybe you're not going to pay as much attention to detail. I spent a couple hours on this because I had to basically put 2 coats of both reds. So, there you go, yeah. Oh, also, before you start this, when you're at the very, very, very beginning, wash this guy. Take off his helmet and then wash him with warm, soapy water. And I use like a paper towel so I could just throw it away after. I use some dish soap and wash over everything of him, because in case there's some oil residue from when McFarlane made it, the oil could make it so that the paint doesn't really attach to the armor as much as it kind of just lays on the oil. And you don't want that, because then it'll rub off or scratch off. Also, when it comes to applying the Pledge Future Shine, wait for the paint to totally dry. Give it some time to totally dry, and then when you put the Pledge on there, let it dry for about an hour before you start touching it, just so it has a good amount of time to really get in and on the figure so it doesn't smear, because that would be bad. One other thing that I did, one little trick, is that anywhere that there's a ball joint, like with an Elite, you have a ball joint in the feet, the hip, and the waist, and then also at the neck. I took apart this Elite using a blow dryer so that I wouldn't damage the figure. I used the blow dryer, heat up those places, and removed it so that you can paint easier. When you're trying to hold a whole figure and you're trying to paint, sometimes you can mess up and bump it, and it swings into your paintbrush and stuff, and it just causes you more work. So I decided to dismantle the figure as best I could, so the torso still had the arms and hands attached to it, so you know. But I got some of the other stuff out of the way just so I didn't have to bump it and then have to repaint it, and it was just to save time. And then I used a blow dryer to heat it back up, the actual place where the ball joint goes, and then just popped in the ball joint. Now it's perfectly fine, like I didn't even do it. But it's just a little bit of a trick to kind of help you when you're doing these types of figures. So, yeah. Anyway, if you are interested, as well as asking me about commission work, I'm more than open to do that. And we can email me. You can email me, not we. You can email me, and we can talk about that and then figure out prices and stuff. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and hope you enjoyed this. And now, a lot of people asked me to do a tutorial, so that's kind of my cheap version of it, and I might do one that's more in-depth later, but maybe not. Anyway, guys, see ya.